It is 6:36 p.m. You are in Wausau City Hall Council Chambers, and I call the meeting to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd ask the clerk to call roll, please.
There are 11 voting members present.
All right, first up, our proclamations. We have several here. Some will be read in, some are just going to be entered into the record. I would like to highlight Arbor Day. We planted on Thursday 12 trees over at Brockmeyer Park with the help of Marathon Way Group and Wisconsin Public Service and the Marathon County Forester. And I'm happy to report the trees, Alderkillian, that you planted 2 years ago at Brockmeyer Park. There was a little fruit orchard there, and they're looking good this spring. So they're still there, surviving, and thank you for your efforts in that. In addition, Saturday we planted trees at Schofield Park for Earth Day. So there are two different groups out there planting trees. So the total trees in the last, I think it's about close to 10 years, is pushing 400 trees that those two groups combined have put out there in parks around the city. Thank you. Week of the Young Child is in there. I've read that a couple of times, but at the event, and that's being entered to the clerk. Okay, up next, at the request of the Friends of Wausau Historic Landmarks, we have Christine and Carl Martins here to accept this one. This is a proclamation new to us. I'll read it. The proclamation, it's National Preservation Month. Whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for managing growth, revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character while enhancing livability. And whereas historic preservation is relevant for communities across the nation, both urban and rural, and for Americans of all ages, all walks of life, and all ethnic backgrounds. And whereas National Preservation Month 2026 themed All People Are Created Equal highlights the importance of telling inclusive and representative stories that reflect the full history of our community. And whereas the city of Wausau is home to rich and diverse history reflected in its neighborhoods, architecture, cultural landscapes, and the stories of the people who have shaped our community. And whereas commissions and organizations such as the City of Wausau's Historic Preservation Commission, Friends of Wausau Historic Landmarks, and the Marathon County Historic Society play a vital role in preserving, interpreting, and sharing our community's architecture and history for current and future generations. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Doug Dinny, Mayor, City of Wausau, do hereby proclaim May 2026 as National Preservation Month in the City of Wausau, and encourage residents to recognize this important observance, participate in local events, and support efforts to preserve our community's architectural and historic resources, not just in May, but year-round. Signed, Doug Dinny, Mayor, City of Wausau, April 28th. Thank you, Don. Also joined by Patrick Bacher.
Okay. Hi, I am Christine Martins, and I am part of Friends of Wausau Historic Landmarks. And I just wanted to say on behalf of our board, thank you, Mayor Dinny, for that, and invite the full board and Wausau to join all of these different groups in celebrating. Lots of different events going on all year round. And if any of the new council members have any questions about historic preservation, architecture, et cetera, please feel free to contact us and the old board members as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, one more. Proclamation heavy tonight. We, just a little less than an hour ago, I read this at the Workers' Memorial down at the WPS Park along the river, established by the Marathon County Central Labor Council. And we do have a member here to accept this one tonight, so I'll give this one a go. Whereas each year thousands of workers are killed and millions more are injured or fall ill in the workplace, often from incidents that are preventable. And whereas 54 years ago, Congress passed Occupational Safety and Health Act, known as OSHA, establishing the right of every worker to a safe job and creating federal workplace safety and health standards that have undoubtedly saved lives. And whereas concerned citizens, labor organizations, and communities are determined to prevent these tragedies by observing Workers' Memorial Day on April 28th, a day to remember the victims of workplace injuries and illnesses, renew efforts to strengthen safety and health protections, enhance standards and enforcement, ensure fair compensation, and rededicate ourselves to improving conditions in every American workplace. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Doug Dinny, Mayor, City of Wausau, do hereby proclaim April 28th, 2026 as Workers' Memorial Day in the City of Wausau, State of Wisconsin, and commend citizens to observe this day by remembering those who have been killed or injured due to unsafe working conditions. Signed, Doug Dinny, Mayor, City of Wausau, April 28th. And just a note, they read the list of those killed on the job since, and several of them were safety officers working in the line of duty as recently as actually this year there was one. So we had a great little ceremony down there. Check out that park if you get a chance. Mr. Killian. Mr. Tom Killian is a member of the council we'll be accepting tonight. Thank you for coming and taking this. Thank you. Yeah. All right. Okay, we have two meeting minute packets to approve. So item 3 is consideration of the minutes for March 24th, 2026, regular Common Council meeting, and April 14th, 2026, regular Common Council meeting. So several of you were not there for this meeting, but I would still entertain a motion to approve those if you deem so necessary.
Motion to approve as
Watson
recorded.
and Neal. Any changes? Seeing none?
You may vote. Otherwise, I can try resetting it. Are you good, Bruce? Did you? Here. All right. That motion passes 11 to 0.
Thank you. Up next is public comments. Are you okay?
Did you? I never got a prompt. What was your intention? Okay.
All right. Sign language tonight. All right, up next are comments and suggestions from pre-registered citizens. Do we have any? Anyone here to speak didn't get a chance to sign up? Seeing none. Next item up is the consent agenda. Item 6. Would entertain a motion on consent. Watson, motion, True Blood, second.
No, well, sure. But I actually would like to pull one of the items out.
Okay. Which item?
The joint resolution from the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee.
Okay.
Yes. Should I speak up?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, so I would like to pull out the first item in the consent agenda.
Okay, so we will pull item 26- it's file number 26-0412. So one item remains.
All right. You may vote. That motion passes 11 to 0.
Okay, up next is that file number 260412. It's a joint resolution from the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee and the Infrastructure Facilities Committee approving the bike rack request form. Would entertain a motion from Watson and from second from Neal. Mr. Trueblood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to actually see this sent back. The reason it seems ironic that we would pass an assessment to charge people who had their road fixed $55 a foot for concrete, whereas we're going to give people who ask for a bicycle rack free concrete. So far, if we're using city resources, city materials, city time to install these bike racks, which I don't have a concern with, and they are paying for the bike rack itself, it just seems odd that we're charging one group for the concrete and not charging this group. So I feel there should be a cost to the complete installation, not just the bike rack. So that is my concern, and it just seems ironic that we would be have this in with a resolution to charge. So if I ask for my street to be fixed, would I get the concrete under the bike rack free? I wouldn't have to pay the $55 per foot. So that is my concern.
Okay, thank you. It looks like we have some folks from Bike Ped and possibly infrastructure in the queue. Alder Neal. Oh, Randy, did you want to get
Yeah,
that?
I would yield to Randy
Okay.
for now.
Thank you, and I'll do my best job pitch hitting for this tonight. Talked with Carrie on this before, and the concrete already has to be in place in order for this to move forward. They wouldn't be installing new concrete as part of these bike racks. This would only apply to situations where concrete is already in place. They talk about in areas where there's not concrete in place, that's something they would take a look at in the future, but this is specifically for locations where the concrete is already in place. I hope that helps it.
Thank you. Mr. Martins.
Yeah, and that's my that was my impression. You know, when this went through infrastructure, is that these bike racks could only be installed in places where there was already concrete. I think the advantage of providing these bike racks to people that request them. And the people, then the requesters are paying a minimal cost, you know, for the racks themselves are being fabricated by NTC students and painted by a local vendor at a great price. And this is a fabulous deal to encourage cycling and alternate means of transportation, and giving cyclists a place in which to properly lock up, secure their bike while they are visiting these businesses. So it's win-win. We encourage more cycling and alternative forms of transportation. Businesses provide adequate places for people to park their bikes. And it will also, you know, by having good bike racks, reduce the chance of theft of these bikes. So I am in favor of this.
Thank you. Mr. Trueblood, you're down twice. You still looking to speak? Okay. Okay. Anything else? Seeing none?
You may vote.
Okay, so this would be a vote to approve the bike rack form.
Motion passes 10-1.
Thank you. So nothing under item 7. Under item 8, suspension of the rules. I'd like to first, without objection, the appointments were listed under suspension of the rules because of a late addition, and I will be striking that item. That's the last item, is the ethics board. So without objection, we could take that up under the regular business under ordinances and resolutions. All right, so we'll take that item, 26-0402, confirming appointments of the mayor of the city of Wausau to the Historic Preservation Commission, Sustainability, Energy and Environment Committee, Business Improvement District Board, Community Development Authority Board, and strike Ethics Board. Would entertain a motion. From Henneke, motion, second from Lukens.
You may vote.
Chair, to confirm, in the packet, like on our voting, it doesn't say that ethics board is struck, but it is struck, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if we vote for that, then, okay, it's just eliminating that part. Just making sure.
Right. So
Thank
yeah, we're good.
Motion passes 11-0.
Okay, so the next item is the suspension of the rules. And just for some procedural history, a little background, so we can understand how we got here. The clerk will chime in, and I'll ask the assistant city attorney to speak to this as well so that we're clear. I did hand out prior to the meeting for reference, historical reference, minutes of the 2020, minutes of the 2022 organizational meeting, and then the agenda for 2024. So you'll see highlighted under the minutes on 2020, motion by Larson, second by Ryan to suspend the rules, and then a motion and second by Martins to adopt the rules. There was an amendment by Killian that failed. There was an amendment, another amendment. That one passed. That was to add the rights. That was a motion to add 2 council members to, actually that was to speak to the committee of the whole. And then there was a motion by Larson, second by Peckham, to adopt the rules as amended, and that passed 10-0. 2022, a little different. So the suspension of the rules, as it was listed on the agenda, was simply suspension of the rules. A motion by Watson, second by Larson, to suspend the rules, and that was a yes vote, 11-0. And there were a few comments in there. There was an amendment made by Killian that failed, but the ultimate motion to pass. Well, let me add the one amendment. I forgot that I did this one. Motion by Watson, second by Denny, to amend the council rules to allow two persons may call for a committee of the whole and have it placed on the next regular meeting. That actually passed 7-3. 7-3 is a simple majority. So that passed by simple majority to the approval and adoption of the rules for the 2022 through 2024 season. And then the last item there is, again, the template that we were using for this year, but this is the 24 organizational meeting. Again, if you'll note, suspension of the rules, and then the ordinance adopting rules for the 2024 to 2026 term. And that passed without any, I think that passed unanimously. There weren't any amendments that came up on that, so I didn't pull the minutes for that one. So that leads us to where we are today. And one of the things that after that last meeting, I asked Cody to put together an SOP, which he did this last week, so that we're going to have a new clerk coming in. We also have a new city attorney or acting city attorney. So we want to make sure we get this right, and we have it in place for the new clerk to come in so that we have an SOP that we don't have what we had last week with a deviation from what we had. And what we have now and what you see is slightly different on the recommendation of the city attorney, that we are more specific on rules that we are suspending. So in the past 3, you see, you suspended all the rules. The recommendation was that we only suspend the rules that we need for that case. So tonight we had 6B listed there for the filing. We didn't need to suspend that because we pulled that item. So now we're at 11 and 21. So Cody, do you want to just touch on that quick on the SOP and how we came to do that?
Sure. So I can talk a little bit about last week. As you know, I think the mayor touched on that last week, that resolution was in as a resolution and not as an ordinance. So that explains that, and the SOP makes that clear into the future.
Thank you. And there is no Wisconsin case law addressing that matter, or excusing it for that fact. If it's mislabeled as an ordinance or as a resolution, there's no case law that tells us how we fix that. It was my opinion we could have fixed it with a suspension of the rules, but we erred on the side of pushing it to this week. Vinny, can you speak to that? Yes, Alder Watson.
Could I ask what SOP means?
Standard operating procedures.
Thank you for all of those out there too.
You bet. So it's a document that allows so in this case, clerk transition, we're going to have 2 transitions. It's a document they can pick up, and it's a checklist in a way, and I've got it. Actually, I think I have it here. So it's a checklist. It has some embedded documents as to what do you do, for example, describes the procedures after the election. He's got to hold the municipal board of canvassers to verify the election and certify the election. And then what do you do from there? Then the organization meeting comes next, and then the steps of what do you put on that org meeting. So as to what we had on tonight for the suspension of the rules, Vinny's recommendation was that we be very specific on what we're suspending, because suspending all the rules, even though we did it in the past, doesn't necessarily give a clear indication of what we're doing. Go ahead, you want to add anything? Assistant City Attorney.
I guess just
Me.
briefly, essentially just what's happening is that it seems that in the past, the rules would be suspended. You would change your standing rules however you like or don't like, I guess. And then at the last organizational meeting, there was just a problem with the agenda. And so now it was put on this one, suspending 11A, which requires items to go to committee prior to coming to council. And then 21, which requires 2/3 votes to amend the rules. So essentially, we're just skipping the committee requirement. You're voting to suspend the rule requiring the committee requirement and a 2/3 vote to approve standing rules amendments. Yeah.
Alder Watson.
Do we have to suspend all of them? Because I think it would be really cool to have like a 2/3 to amend it. But that's my question. Or is it like we have to take them all?
Do you want me to answer that?
Yes.
Oh.
The attorney will answer that because there's a little rule with suspension of the rules that isn't debatable, but go ahead, Vinny.
You could make a motion just to suspend one of the rules.
All right, so any further explanation on that? Just procedural, so I want to be clear that more transparency is in order, and I think we're moving in the right direction. So having said that, we're up to item 8, suspension of the rules, 11A for referral of ordinances, and 21, amending the rules. So would entertain a motion. Alder Watson.
I would move to suspend the rule 11A, referral of ordinances, and 6B of filing. But not the other one.
Okay, so we have a motion.
Can I amend it to just approve those two?
6B is not in play at this point because
All right,
okay.
then I'll just 11A, referral of ordinances. That's how I would amend that.
Okay, so we have a motion to suspend Rule 11A. Second from Martins.
You may vote.
Now, point of order, we were just voting on the amendment, correct?
You're voting on no, suspension of the rules.
The whole suspension?
I can.
Okay.
Yeah, because you're not you don't need to amend it because you're making a motion to do something as opposed to amend.
Okay. Did you hear me before, Cody? Okay.
And then I'm just going to ask one more time, would anybody else like to change their vote before I call it? Or equally unable to change your vote? Okay. That motion passes 8-3.
Okay. Any
Can
other
I
motion?
entertain a motion?
Alder Henneke.
Can I entertain a motion to suspend 21 amending of the rules?
So we have a motion from Henneke to suspend Rule 21. Do we have a second? Second from Killian.
So, and to be clear, so the vote before was to take up the ordinance at all?
No, the vote was to suspend Rule 11A.
I suspend the rule to take up the ordinance, because without that vote, you wouldn't have been able to take up the ordinance. So, under the motion by Alder Henneke, this would be to suspend Rule 21, amending of the rules.
Correct. Not on suspension of the rules. So just to clarify, we're only suspending the rules. When we get to the next item, we'll have to have another motion to take it up and talk about it. So we're not there yet. It's a little bit of a two-tiered system here, and there's reasons behind it, but we can talk about that at a later date. But here's where we are. Motion to suspend Rule 21, Henneke, second with Killian. You may vote.
You may vote. Motion fails 5-6.
Okay, up next is file 020432. It's an ordinance from the Common Council to amend Wausau Municipal Code, Chapter 2.16, Standing Rules of the Common Council. Would entertain a motion. Henneke, motion, second from Tierney. What's it? Oh, okay. We've got a... Okay, gotcha. Sorry. My king keeps weakening out. Okay, before we call on on speakers here, this is a little different because we have, normally we adopt the rules, and then alders, like I mentioned, would offer amendments, which we've had numerous examples of amendments that have been made. So in this case, because I had made the suggestion, the assistant city attorney crafted a draft. That is just a draft. Anyone can do whatever they want. There's the 6-day rule there that's going to be talked about, and there's any other motions that somebody would like to make, they could. But before we start, I would like to participate in the debate on this matter. So I'm going to ask Council President Killian to come up and take the chair. So I'm going to also ask the council, this is some baptism by fire, and I thank Alder Killian for jumping in the hot seat. But my only goal here is that we have civil dialogue. Hopefully we dispense with some of the misnomers that there's some potential trickery going on here. There's not. We're just going to debate the item and take a vote, move on.
Can I object?
The success here is if we have a civil discussion, we take the vote, we move on, and have a good night, win or lose.
Now I ask the chair. Madam Chair. Madam Chair. I would like to object to this.
Are you,
I would like to object to this. I believe we should just get on with the vote to suspend the rules as we normally do and operate in the proper procedure which we normally do. Thank you.
so I would like the Attorney Bonino to let us know if we are not proceeding properly.
We're proceeding, okay-ish, yeah. I mean, the chair can step down and participate in the debate, then he just can't retake the chair until after the vote has happened.
Well, I guess the reason why I'm objecting is because normally we suspend the rules. We vote to suspend the rules, and then there's discussion. We don't discuss first.
You just
and then
did.
suspend the rules. That's my question. Thank you.
I believe we did suspend the rules. Pardon?
Chairperson, can you just talk closer? You have a very
sorry.
small voice anyway, just right up there.
All
Thank you.
right. I believe we did follow that process, and Attorney Bonino has indicated that we are moving ahead properly. So if that was a point of order, I'm not recognizing that as appropriate.
It's just an objection, because
Okay.
I didn't know if we could follow this.
Okay, I'm not recognizing that objection. I think there's a right to appeal if someone wants to. I don't see an appeal. So we will move ahead. As Mayor Dinny indicated, I did not anticipate sitting in this chair so quickly, and this does feel like baptism by fire. And I know Cody will assist me, and Attorney Bonino is here to make sure that we move ahead properly, as you can tell. So the next item on the agenda will be taking up, excuse me,
We already took that up, so we have a motion by
okay, we have a motion by Tierney and a second by Henneke to take up the ordinance from the Common Council to amend the Wausau Municipal Code 2.16 Standing Rules of the Common Council. Alder Dinny.
Is there a queue?
Mayor Dinny.
Yes, there
excuse
is.
me.
Is there a queue?
I think
Yes.
there's a cue to speak.
There is, and I'll speak first, and then you come.
Are you in the queue?
Is there a queue?
I am in the queue. I indicated to Cody before I got down here. Thank you. Okay, so thank you for having civil discussion last week, and again, hopefully this week. My job is to look for efficiencies, work with the staff to work for efficiencies. This is one item that has surfaced time and again. How can we streamline things? How can we reduce staff time, reduce efficiencies, or increase efficiencies? And this probably has the most efficiency application to alders, and secondly, to the residents. So there's elimination of duplication of staff having to repeat from health and safety to HR and then to finance before it can get to council. So that is roughly a 1/3 reduction in meetings that we'll have to do. Under the rules, under the state statute 62.11 of the Common Council, it's the foundational statute governing Wausau's Common Council operations. And a key for provision 62.112, following a regular city election, the new council shall first meet on the third Tuesday of April. And that's exactly what Wausau's organizational meeting date was and has been for decades. Under state statute 62.113E, the council shall in all other respects determine the rules of its procedure, and this expressly authorizes the annual or biannual adoption or readoption of standing rules, Municipal Code, Chapter 2.16, and Robert's Rules. So I can cover more items, but I'm going to keep it real simple. There are 10 Wisconsin municipalities with populations between 35,000 and 45,000, including Wausau. They are Oak Creek. They have 3 standing committees. Sun Prairie, 4 standing committees. Beloit, 4. Greenfield, 1. Franklin, 3. Menominee Falls, 2. New Berlin, 4. Fond du Lac, 2. Brookfield, 5. Average of 3 standing committees for those cities. Now, Fond du Lac's a little different. They create committees for certain tasks, and they have boards and commissions that do the rest of the work, and staff does the rest of the work. So they don't, and they utilize the full common council either in the form of a committee of the whole, or the full common council takes up the items and debates them. So they have virtually no committees. Not suggesting that, but that's the variation that they have. We talked about Cody's SOP. I think that will clean things up in the future for us. And I'll yield my time for this point.
I would like to recognize Alder Watson.
Thank you. So I guess the change. So I guess I have 3 questions and then I have some comments. So first question, is the calendar of our meeting schedules, is that codified in ordinance, or is that just sort of practice? That's what we set up at the first committee meetings. I couldn't find it in our standing committee rules, and I couldn't find it in our ordinances. So I wasn't sure if that's something we can change up, because I think that would help with efficiencies and flow of information too. And I also wonder if there's a way that we can like play with it a little bit, so it's not such a stress on like the clerk and the clerk's office putting together packets, making sure they have the correct number of days, and like, is everything published in Civic Plus? Like, I think there's a really good way of getting that flow. And I guess I was wondering about calendar. Is that set at the committee level?
You want me to answer that?
Yes, go ahead.
Well, it is established the 3rd Thursday in April, following the election. By state statute 62.11, that we have the organizational meeting.
Right.
And by definition, organizational meeting has legal implications with whether it's a business or whether it's a city. And it lays out the election of the council president, various things. Now, it doesn't specifically cite adoption of the rules, but of those communities that I listed for you, the vast majority of them have adoption. I've got Fond du Lac right here. Resolution adopting supplemental meeting rules for the City of Council of Fond du Lac. So that's on their organizational meeting.
So
it's tradition, basically.
And I appreciate, I guess I'm not meaning by the organizational meeting. I believe that's in the code. I agree. I'm totally like the third Tuesday, April organizational meeting. I just meant for like the other committees we have for like HR, finance, is that codified in ordinance, or is that just something we discussed at our first meeting?
It's in 2.16 on, our standing rules list the committees, which
Don't list meeting times, right?
No.
Okay.
Those are established by the committee.
Okay, that's what was my question. Because that, I think then we could pivot and have a bigger discussion once we do seat whatever committees we have, to have more of a flow. And I don't know, also, one of the things that I've gotten from residents is sometimes it's hard, and I know I don't want to be out later either, but like sometimes it's hard to get people out of 5 o'clock. And I don't know if our committees would start to like maybe consider going a little later, especially for those folks that get off of work. So that would be something I'd love to talk about. But I was just curious if that's something we have to change here, or if that's something we change at a committee level. So thank you. So that was question 1. Question 2, meeting requirement. Now what I'm trying to think. Okay, so that's the calendar. Okay. So I guess a couple of my comments. The reason why I sort of like the structure as is, and I think we could tweak the frequency of the meetings through scheduling. Like maybe HR is just a once a quarter kind of appointment, or maybe it's something that happens only around negotiations time, right? Finance can still be 1 to 2 times a month. But then parks can maybe be more at discretion of like when Jamie has business that we need to talk about, so maybe more infrequent. So then we would really only have finance, HR, park and rec, or, we would have infrastructure, finance, public health and safety, and ED as like core committees. So that would come down to 4, right? And then we just have different committee like frequencies, meeting frequencies. So that's one of my suggestions, mainly because I think the lens that you look at the items is different depending on what committee you're on. Case in point, right? I'm on finance. I look at the financial, right? Look at the dollars and cents, looking at how things, balance up. But if it's about a contract, I'm not necessarily thinking, does this contract make Wausau a place we want to be employed? Is it fair for represented and non-represented employees? That's not something I'm thinking about at finance. That's something I hoped my HR folks were thinking about, right? Because it's a different lens that you're putting on. Same thing with like infrastructure. Like even though I was on finance and infrastructure, like when I was at infrastructure, I didn't have the finance. I mean, of course, I wasn't like, let's spend $1 billion, right? But I didn't have the finance hat on. I had, okay, what streets can we do and how can we do it, right? So there's a value to that management. It's because you can put on those glasses and really get a feel for that issue. And I guess my other thing about this is I appreciate we have done this in the past. I guess I forgot all that fun stuff we had at the beginning with rules. But I think it was just how it came out. It wasn't so much a discussion. It was sort of like, this is what we would like to change. And I think that was probably where it rubbed a little, because I was hoping to start this term like on a different foot. Like a whole bunch of crap that we had done in the last 2 years was done, right? We were all sort of like ready to start fresh. And I think communication is the first part. And I just really think all the voices need to be at that table. And all the council people weren't at that table. The clerk's office wasn't at that table. I mean, maybe the department, I think people went to the department chairs. They were at the table, but I want to hear from them too. Like I didn't get a chance to talk to them. So that's why eventually after we have some discourse, and I'll shut up eventually, but like eventually I do want this to come to rules review because I think we can have a really robust discussion with all the actors and get it really changed and really efficient. But I also think all the voices need to be there and represented. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah. Next would be Alder Neal.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam Chair. First time.
Thank you for reminding me it's the first time, Tom. Yeah, I feel it.
That's okay. It'll be fine. Don't worry. I've got a few thoughts I put down here because I didn't want to meander as I often am prone to do. So, streamlining and efficiency efforts are good topics to consider, but there are some concerns to address for what we're talking about tonight. The proposed efficiency of going to 4 committees comes with a trade-off, resulting in significantly reduced alder involvement. The new assignments we received last week featured 8 alders in 3 committees each, and 3 alders in 2 committees each. In the 4-committee structure, a pool of 11 alders, all of us, would be filling a total of 20 committee seats. Assignments would weigh 7 veteran alders and 4 new alders. And unavoidably, it seems 2 alders would have to be limited to just 1 committee each. What criteria would determine who those 2 are? Not a crucial issue maybe, but it's not without implications regarding experience versus learning curve and workload. We could see oversized agendas with combined committees, maybe particularly when the finance and HR committees come together. I mean, those committees often conduct long meetings on their own, dealing with very weighty issues. Bloated combined agendas could make for exhausting late-night meetings, also requiring staff to be on hand for that extended period of time. And instead of finishing by maybe 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, meetings could easily go to 10 o'clock or even later. And there have been times in the past, I have seen it, many of you have seen it, when that zombie effect kind of starts creeping in when we're here very late. People even get a little edgy. So combining INF and parks could present a hefty agenda plateful at times too, but maybe not as heavy as that finance and HR idea. 6 committees may not be the magic number, but if we want to downsize, we could look at 5 as a more workable and equitable option. Instead of a 33% reduction in committees, we could be reduced by 17%, with 11 alders distributed among 25 seats instead of 20 seats. We'd have a good mix of newcomers and experienced alders without relegating any alders to 1 seat for whatever reason. And the reasons for their exclusion would likely come into question. Now, I'm certainly, at this point, I'm not making a motion to go to 5 committees, but it is a possible thing we might discuss in the future. Right now, there's no urgent need to act on this. We do well to give it time for good evaluation, as has been suggested, notably by Alder Larson. And let's let this go and stick with our existing structure until we've had time to really look at this and contemplate a change in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Neal. The next person to speak would be Alder Henneke.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So similar to Mayor Dinny, I had done research over the last week to look at comparable cities just to get some examples. In truth, namely due to the fact that those who detracted from the move to 4 committees from 6, I genuinely wanted to hear arguments to keep the structure as is, and I heard resoundingly 2 things. 1, we've always done this way, it works, don't change it. And 2, one that I repudiate emphatically, if Mayor Dinny is in support of it, I'm against it. I'm going to be honest, it's that same repudiation, I believe, put me in this chair, in this position as alderperson for District 7. I don't believe partisan politics have any place in City Hall. And the idea that we would reject something simply because of the person who is recommending it is ridiculous. So in light of what Mayor Dinny had brought up, I won't reiterate, only to say that similarly, not only do these cities have our population size, they actually, none of them even exceed 7 alders per municipality. At most, they have 7. So, they are governing with less and doing a fine job all the same. One of the things that really frustrated me about the way in which we approached this last week was the idea that we felt it was too short notice to consider such a change to council rules and to the structure of our committee, our committees as a whole for the standing committees. Why on earth at the beginning of every election cycle do we go through the process of approving the rules, if not to review and see what could be changed and what should be changed, what might need to be changed on that 2-year cycle basis? One of the things that has frustrated constituents of mine and conversations that I had, and I had people who spoke in favor of and people who spoke in disagreement with the restructuring of our committees, but one of the things that all of them resoundingly agreed upon is that something, and it's a different tangible thing for each person, but something about this city council structure needs to change because the direction we've been heading and the processes as they are in place have not actually been in our residents' best interests. Obviously, there's many things that go into that. I have my own bone to pick with some of the financial decisions this council has made historically. But I do want to say that in conversations with department heads, that there was more department heads that I heard from than less. In fact, I had a couple that said that they really would take it either way. But I did have quite a few department heads who mentioned that the need to go and present to multiple committees is a bit of a burden, having to go to meeting after meeting after meeting in order to get something as simple as a new employee approved or brought on to staff. I personally feel that in his administrative duties, the mayor is in the best position to speak for the state of City Hall and the ways in which it's structured and the efficiencies that could benefit city business. And having heard from the staff downline from Mayor Denny, who are recommending this, I truly have not heard a good enough reason other than we shouldn't make this change because we weren't expecting it and it's not the way that we've done things. Those aren't arguments in my opinion, and they're not grounds for me to change my decision. Having heard from department heads, having heard from our mayor, I believe that I've talked to the individuals who are most informed on this issue, and the majority are in favor. That I've talked to are in favor of this change. So I would ask all of you to strongly consider that. I'm very eager to hear everyone's thoughts, and thank you for giving me the time to share mine.
Thank you for your comments and your opinions. Next to speak would be Alder Drew. It's easier than saying your last name.
Wiskowski.
Wiskowski, thank you.
Yep, so maybe I'm more of a positive person speaking right now. I had the pleasure of going around to the staff this week over the last 5 days and talking to, I think I spoke to about 17 members of staff and about 4 or 5 directors or managers. And I asked all of them about this, and the general perception that I got was quite similar to Alder Haneke, what he said. And I personally concur and object a bit with what everyone else has said so far. But one thing that, if we change the structure, great. If we don't, great. Whatever happens. It sounds like this would introduce some more efficiency. A lot of people were concerned about agenda construction for these meetings and how long the agendas could become. I think a cautionary note that we should go, if we go forward with a structure of 4, is to assemble the agendas in such a way that certain people could leave meetings early or possibly attend later, or not have to have members of their staff sitting behind them as backup or a resource when they're going to be presenting or discussing things. Just being mindful of people's time. That was one thing that a lot of staff reflected to me, is that they don't want to be sitting in meetings forever if they're not actually necessary for the meetings. And likewise, if there's seven committees, whatever we're going to call it. Yeah, with or without this executive one. Similarly, to be careful with agenda planning so that if somebody has to, as just described, go from one committee to another to present something, that's not very efficient and it actually is wasting a lot of staff time. So that's all I wanted to say, is that the staff gave me those points and I just want to reflect those back into the record. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Next, I would like to recognize Alder Martins.
Thank you. And we've had a lot of really interesting discussion. And I just want to kind of start out with something that a former alder always said, is that work is done in the committees. And that's where the bread and butter of our common council lies, is in our committee work. And when we get to the common council meetings, it should be, all of the heavy lifting should be done, and it's just you should be to the point of yay or nay, in essence, and that's the way our council has been structured, and that's the way we've operated for I don't know how many years. I think I think our current 6-committee structure goes back to the 1980s, at least, when that was about the time when the Economic Development Committee was added to the list of standing committees. I do have concerns, when we talk about reducing the number of committees. I really do have concerns about the size of the agenda and the amount of time it's going to take to get through these agenda items, in particular, the finance, the merging of the Finance and the Human Resources Committee. Those are two very important committees. And I got a feeling that a lot of people either discredit or don't really think about the full implications of what Human Resources does and why it is such a important committee for the city. I know Marathon County, their HR and finance is combined into one committee. And their meetings are large. They're onerous in the length of time it takes to get work done. And I got a feeling, and I just don't want to see, these 2-hour marathon sessions every 2 weeks in order to get through finance issues and or HR issues on top of it. HR may not, sometimes with human resources, things, can be a little bit lighter. And, maybe if that was scaled back to 6 meetings a year with extra meetings peppered in when it needs to be, that would probably work, really well for the committee. If you're looking about increasing efficiency, and I think that would be, a very workable solution, probably with infrastructure and parks. Maybe we don't have enough business to have parks 12 times a year, and 6 meetings a year would be sufficient in order to handle all of that parks duty. But you would still have the ability to work through the issues in a committee, and as Alder Watson said, have that lens, that focus on the core items of those issues. For example, for HR, when we're talking about adding a staff person, that's an important decision. When it comes to HR, we're talking about job description, we're talking about the scope, we're talking about the pay grades and the other classifications. When that item goes to HR, now we're talking about, well, how are we going to pay for this person? And it totally puts you in a different mindset. And I think it's good in order to have those two separate groups looking at this issue, thinking about the personnel portion of the issue, and then switching to the financial portion of the issue without having to mix the two all in one meeting, where I feel like it's just going to get a little scrambled up. Because we may know the importance of why we're adding a staff person, but then getting the finance, then we got to talk about, well, how important really is it, on a financial standpoint, or how can we afford it? How can we fit this into our budget? And which brings to me, multiple. We were talking about multiple meetings, and I think a great example of this, famously, is what our fire chief did in order to champion adding our 12 firefighters to the department. I don't know how many meetings he went to between public health and safety, human resources, and finance, but it was a good number, and all of those meetings were very valuable. And at each and every one of those meetings, the chief focused on a different aspect of why we needed these firefighters. And I think it really added a certain breadth to the conversation, and it made it feel more whole, and more holistic. And each of our committees had that buy-in for the entire process. So when it came time getting this decision to the Common Council, everybody, I think just about everybody on the council, because it touched them in a different way, be it their work on their individual committees made a difference in that decision in order to move that forward, that staffing adjustment forward. So, I'm kind of, if we need to reduce things, I'm kind of receptive to Alder Neal's suggestion of maybe dropping to 5 committees, merging parks and infrastructure. But I really think that, you know, we got to think really hard about HR and finance. I've been on both those committees for a very long time, and I see the intricacies that we deal with on those committees, and I think we got to think about that. You know, do we really want to merge those two committees together? So, thank you.
Thank you, Alder Martins. I'd like to recognize Alder Tierney now.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a few ideas that weren't really presented. I did talk to a number of directors, 6 of them actually, and kind of got in a mixed bag. Some said, yep, let's do some combination, let's make this more efficient. Some were okay either way. I did not get a no. One of my thoughts here is we're sitting here and we're saying, well, we can do HR once a quarter or every other month. I think that the directors need to be involved in this decision-making process on how often they feel committees should meet, because they are the ones that are bringing the agendas to the committees. So I don't think it's our place to say HR meets once per quarter or infrastructure meets once every 2 months. I think that those decisions should be made with the director of that department. And that should be made, I guess, together. Because, again, I don't feel that we should be telling them what's important enough to be brought up. We do have a lot of duplication because so many things go from ED or infrastructure, then to finance, and then to the council, the common council as a whole. So, you know, I don't know how we alleviate that or lighten that. I do like Alder Neal's suggestion. I think, too, we have to look at the pairings a little closer. I am in favor of combining some, but not necessarily the way Mayor Denny had suggested. And after talking to some of the directors, I understand their dispositions on this, and that's why I really think that we need to involve the directors of these departments when making these decisions, because ultimately, they're putting in a lot of work. Another thing is we're going to see a whole lot of suspension of the rules. Because if we're doing a meeting, say, every other month for one department, they're going to be bringing things forward to suspend the rules because they haven't been on a monthly basis per se. So I do see that increasing, which to me, who probably votes no on suspension of the rules 95% of the time, would be this rule was put in place and is almost never followed. So that would be problematic for me. But regardless of what happens here, I do like Alder Neal's idea. I do think that the directors should be involved in this decision on how often they feel that they should meet and who they feel would be a proper pairing if their department is not done individually. Because I'm kind of at a loss with parks and infrastructure. And so was Mr. Wislowski when we talked. Parks, my concern with parks is that it's only part of the city. Parks is city and county, so I don't know how that can be rolled in with infrastructure. Infrastructure and parks have very little that combines. You know, infrastructure is looking at things that parks isn't looking at. So, and Mr. Wislowski and I did talk about that, but again, I don't think this decision can be made without the director's input, rather than are you in favor of this or not. I think looking at who they're paired with and how often they feel they need to be meeting needs to be taken under consideration before any decision is made. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Tierney. Alder Larson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Gosh, so many good stuff has been said about this already. One of the things that I felt that, as per what Alder Watson said, this to me I thought was kind of an ambush on us last week. It was totally brought to us by surprise. And I have yet to see anything in any kind of packet on this. Here we're talking about stuff that we haven't even seen any ands, ifs, whats, or buts. I haven't seen anything that says that these committees are burdensome, redundant, and ineffective, and I haven't seen ways how this new system that's proposed is going to cancel those issues. I'm very much concerned about when we're changing city governance, we should not be acting swiftly. We have a procedure we follow and a proper process we should follow. And that is, as Alder Martin said, do the work at the committees, bring it to the committees. I'm not real receptive to suspending Rule 11A on this, because if we suspend Rule 11A, then we're suspending our legal advice. And that's the way I interpret it anyway, because 11A is about the legal stuff. And maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I interpret it. I think we should have a committee of the whole meeting on this. And I also said that I don't think that this is fair to our new colleagues here who have yet to even sit in through a standing committee meeting. They don't even know how it works. And so I'm not for or against this. I just haven't seen enough to do this, and I would like to see proper procedure followed. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Larson. Alder Lukens, we'd like to hear from you next.
Thank you. So I agree that a lot good has been said. I had something prepared, so if anything's repetitive, please forgive me, but I'm just going to read this. I also did my research. I did talk with some staff, and I will say I feel it's a bit presumptuous to say that, one believes that if that person's colleagues have the feeling that if Mayor Dinny is for this, we're against this. Because it's presumptuous, because especially when you haven't worked with the rest of the council members, you really don't know what their reasons are. And it is our positions and our responsibility as council members to look at things. And snarky remarks about the person that you won over just doesn't make a lot of friends. So I'm really hoping we can all work together on this council. Not a good way to start out. So I want to share some thoughts on the proposal before us tonight to reduce our standing committees from 6 to 4. First, I want to acknowledge that Mayor Dinny's goals of reducing redundancy and making city government more efficient are goals we all share. That common ground matters, and I want to name it clearly at the outset. But I believe we already have the tools to address those concerns without changing our committee structure. If the same issue needs to go to multiple committees, we can hold a joint session. Staff presents once, problem solved. And I just want to reiterate, I wrote this before the discussion, so maybe some of this will change, but I still want to finish reading this. If a committee has nothing on its agenda for a month, we cancel the meeting. No meeting required. And no alder is required to attend meetings of committees they do not serve on. Every meeting is recorded and live streamed. Minutes are published. Any alder or any resident can follow along without being physically present. These tools are available right now, tonight, without restructuring anything. I also want to note that when council members were asked to list the committees they wanted to serve on at the start of both the 2022-24 term and this one, some members even requested more assignments than they received, not fewer. So, some may wish to serve on more and, others may not. So, but what would consolidation mean for residents? So for residents, fewer committees means more topics bundled into each agenda, as some have noted here. That makes it harder for residents to find and track issues that affect their neighborhoods. It also means fewer alders seated at the table for any given policy area. Fewer districts with a direct voice before items reach this full body for a vote. I also want to provide some context about the larger conversation this proposal fits into. Mayor Dinny has proposed hiring a city administrator since 2022 and publicly expressed support for a full city manager form of government in 2025. Those are two very different things, and the difference matters enormously for every resident in this room and across the city. Under the administrator model, Wausau keeps its elected mayor. The council retains oversight authority over the administrator. Residents continue to vote for their mayor. Accountability remains with elected officials. Under the full city manager form, allowed under Chapter 64 of Wisconsin statutes, the elected mayor position is eliminated entirely. Wausau residents would no longer vote for a mayor. That is not a criticism of either option. Both exist in Wisconsin cities. Both have genuine supporters and legitimate arguments in their favor. But a decision of that magnitude, one that would permanently change who residents vote for and how the city is governed, is exactly the kind of decision that deserves a full, open, resident-driven conversation before anything moves forward. I raise it tonight not to oppose any particular direction, but to ask a straightforward question on behalf of residents. If that conversation is coming, shouldn't residents be part of it from the beginning before structural changes are made that may make it harder to course correct later? This council has also established a clear standard when it comes to suspending our rules. On July 9th, 2024, this body voted, or the former body voted 6-5 to block a rule suspension for a proposal that had not been vetted by committee. Members stated explicitly, and I quote, "Our rules require resolutions put before us be vetted by our standing committees for a reason. There is research that is required. You need facts, you need figures, you need data." That standard was reaffirmed at our February 11th, March 10th, and March 24th, 2026 meetings. And just as Alder Tierney noted tonight too, it should apply here as well. I also want to recognize something genuinely positive. This council and this mayor have both championed meaningful public engagement on the redevelopment of 1300 Cleveland Avenue, a standing room only public input session, a survey of 98 residents, and a second listening session still planned. That reflects a shared commitment to resident input that I believe every member of this council holds genuinely. I simply ask that we apply that same standard here. A change to how this council deliberates affects all 40,000 Wausau residents across all 11 districts. It deserves the same deliberate, resident-inclusive process. But I want to close with what I believe matters most tonight. The most pressing responsibility before this council is not the structure of our committees, in my opinion. It is affordability. Homeowners are carrying a growing property tax burden. Renters feel it too. When property taxes rise, rents follow. Young families trying to build a life in Wausau need a city government focused on making that possible. And our elderly residents on fixed incomes can least afford any increase in their cost of living. This council should be meeting urgently and regularly to find new revenue sources so that property taxes are not the only tool we have. That work is overdue. The question of committee consolidation is one we can take up thoughtfully with full public input and a committee of the whole discussion during this term. But I don't believe there is urgency that requires deciding it tonight.
Excuse me, Alder Lukens, I think it's important that we stick to the topic where you seem to be discussing many issues. If you could.
Can I finish? I have like 3 sentences.
All right.
Because I have been talking about but again, what is urgent is affordability. What is urgent is fiscal sustainability. What is urgent is honoring the trust that every Wausau resident placed in us when they voted. That is where energy belongs, and that is where I'm committed to focusing mine. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Lukens. Alder Trueblood?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also went through pages and pages of minutes and watched hours and hours of committee meetings. And I appreciate I have not sat on a committee, however, in this council. I have sat on many committees in other locations. So I feel as though I have a grasp on the situation, as it were. It sounds very redundant, everything that's being said. It's all very interesting. And I'm sure if ghosts from councils past could come forward, they would all, many of them would hear their own words echoed because they're in the minutes. If we go back to when the executive committee was founded in 2022, in April of 2022, during the orientation meeting, during the setup meeting, some of these very same arguments were made. The executive committee was established to ensure efficiency. It did not. We have done many things to ensure efficiency. Arguments about, let's see, when was this? April of 2022, at the April 19th meeting, a former, it's a new tongue, I can't do a thing with it. Former members commented on how nearly everything that goes before the HR committee goes before the budget, the finance committee, because it has budget implications. So when we're doing things like that, if we were a business, we'd be talking about concerns with siloing. We are isolating ideas. We are specializing so much we get nothing done. So it is time to review, and the beginning of an adventure, the beginning of a new council is the time to make these changes. And if we cannot make a minor change, and I say minor because who do the committees affect? The committees refer to the council. Whether they agree or not with the motion, it still comes before the council if it's referred to the council. So the committee is only advising. The committee can make no motion. It still has to come before the council. We still have to review that. And since 2024, 90% of the time, 90% of the agendas have a motion to suspend the rules. So it seems a mantra of this city council to suspend the rules on a regular basis anyway. And I will point out, there are at least 4 meetings since April of 2024 where minutes do not appear on the website, which needs to be addressed. However, the committees serve the council. So if we can honestly say that 6 committees are serving the council and through the council serving the citizens, then we should keep 6. If they're not, we need to collapse these silos, become more efficient in what we're doing as a council, and serve our citizens better. The citizens are looking for change. This is really a minor change. The bigger change is when we're going to have to face budgets where we have to explain to the citizens, we're charging you 2 times the national average in taxes, and are you really getting 2 times the service back from the council? They elected us to make change. This is a good starting point.
Thank you, Alder Trueblood. I'd like to recognize Alder Slonsky next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As was pointed out by Alder Larson, there's a number of us here who are new to the council and have not yet sat on a standing committee. So I've been listening and taking notes here as if I were sitting in a committee. The various points that are being raised, and it seems to me that there are two main competing points. The first being, as was raised by Alder Watson, that different committees look at various issues through different lenses, and it's important to come to those issues with those lenses. And the second being that we don't want to overburden the staff who have to come and talk and explain to the committees. My concern, and I take Alder Trueblood's point about siloing and the concern about siloing, but I would raise a counter concern about what will happen if we combine committees and the different concerns that need to be addressed with, say, finance and human resources. What happens? Are those concerns going to be addressed? And if they're not, is it because one lens is taking over? My main concern being that the financial lens is going to overshadow other concerns that are important to our constituents. And my main concern being that if those are not even addressed in committee, because nobody wants a big monstrous marathon session, and so we just talk about what we think is most important or what staff think are most important, and certain questions are not asked or certain concerns are not addressed. That's where I come to my concern, and I would like to do a little more talking with the staff and the department heads about how they think that those competing concerns of staff efficiency in not having to go to multiple committee meetings versus staff efficiency and not having to sit through and conduct a monster long marathon session to a joint committee. I'd really like to talk to them a little bit more and kind of suss out what we think that balancing act, where we think we should come down on that. I haven't heard anything tonight that makes me believe that this is an urgent matter that needs to be addressed without bubbling up through committee the way it normally would, without those discussions and those considerations of competing values and interests. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Slonsky. Alder Henneke, did you wish to speak again?
I wasn't sure if we could speak again. Is that allowed? Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. So first thing I wanted to clarify, just to ensure that we get off on the right foot to the alderperson from District 1. The comment that I had made about if Denny's for it, we're against it, that was a direct quote from one of my constituents. I didn't mean for anyone at the council to take that as a
Alder
personal
Henneke,
attack.
You need to just
Sorry,
you
Madam
need to
Chair.
address the chair.
Sorry, Madam Chair. I want to clarify that I had heard from a constituent following our meeting last week who mentioned to me, if Mayor Denny is for something, I want you to know that I'm against it. That was one of my residents who stated that. I did not hear that from a member of this council and therefore was not intending it to be that way. I was actually very grateful to hear from my fellow members of the council that they echo a repudiation of those beliefs. One of the things that I do want to say in reference to some of the arguments that were brought up, one argument that I heard just a while ago was that much of the meat and the work of what needs to be done in terms of what the committee brings to the council and thereby the council then approves or denies happens within those committee meetings. I would very much like to know in inquiry whether or not there's a formal statute that's set above this council's ability to change rules around how many people sit on each committee. I think a reduction of committees, and then I guess my assumption would be, my question would be, what changes could we make to have more representation of each council member on those reduced committees, so you have more council members on each committee? I don't know if that's something where we have a hierarchy of state statutes that say that that's not allowed, or if that's a city ordinance that we could change to ensure that more eyes, not less, are seeing the business that the city is looking through and discussing. I would ask after my time, Vinny, if you don't mind clarifying that for me, if you happen to know or see where that sits, if we would be able to change the rule on how many council members can sit on the committees. If we were to go from 6 to 4, my assumption would be we get more representation, not less, from the council as a whole. Maybe I'm incorrect on that, as the rules are laid out. Getting back though to the argument that was made, there was talk about, well, the meat of the discussion of what we do happens in these committee meetings, and so by the time we get to the council, it's just a formal, do we approve it or do we not? I actually think that's quite worrisome, especially when we talk about 2, 3, maybe 4 individuals of an 11-person council being seated on a committee that then brings it to the whole. There were a few different times where, on the grounds of, well, the committee unanimously supports this, the council should do in turn the same. That really concerns me. I think the need to be able to have more oversight, not less, by more eyes on the council, not less, is actually one of the things that interests me about the committees. In truth, if we had a reduction of the number of committees, I would advocate for, and I hope you would join me in wanting to make sure we could have more council members, not less, represented on those committees. I think it's behoove all of us, for not 3 of us, to make decisions for the 11 on what does or doesn't make it through committee in an HR meeting or a finance meeting, but more of us to have an opinion or a say on that. 3 of us don't represent 40,000 people, 11 of us do. And I think it's really important for us to see the merits of having more eyes on the issues at hand than less. So again, Vinny, I don't know if you could speak to that by chance in regards to whether or not there's a state statute that says that we have a limitation on the number of committee members we can have, or is that something where we are allowed to set that as a city? And I yield. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Vinny, do you have any information to provide to him?
So, I'll just start by saying, so committees are creatures of the city itself. There's no statutes governing them. You can make them, you could format them and name them whatever you want, whatever your little heart desires. The only issue with increasing the number of council members on the committees is that then you kind of run into quorum issues. I guess you could add a disclaimer, there might be a meeting, a quorum of the city council, but it just kind of becomes a little finicky because obviously these committees are discussing city business that will eventually come before the city council, and then it's like you kind of see what the, yeah.
Alder Tierney, did you wish to speak again?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just wondering, because we do have a number of directors here, if it would be possible to ask them if any of them have any comments towards this at this time, and invite them up to the podium if they do have a comment, since this directly affects each and every department. Thank you. If any of them want to be brave.
I'm certainly open to that if there's no objection from the council.
Madam Chair.
Our police chief is always ready to speak to us. Thank you, Matt.
First off, I would just say that there's been a lot of conversation about city staff, and we had a conversation about this specific issue at the mayor's last staff meeting. And one of the things that's really important to recognize is we are paid to serve the community, we're paid to serve this council, and if you need us here at 6 committee meetings, we're going to come to 6 committee meetings. I think it's also fair to say we don't want to go to 6 committee meetings because that's 6 committee meetings, and some of them meet multiple times a month. We can all identify numerous times in which we give the exact same presentation to 2, 3, counting the final council meeting, sometimes 4 times, and it feels a little bit like Groundhog Day. What I think we're all very pleased with is there was a very respectful, robust discussion that numerous ideas have come up. I don't think all of the potential ideas. I have read comments in the paper and letters to the editor and discussions about committee of the whole. Potentially, these Matt's opinion, I didn't have the vote of all my fellow members, but if I know I'm going to have to go to 3 committees in the council, if you want to hold a committee of the whole occasionally so we can just take it all at once, that saves giving the same presentation 3 times. So I think there are things we should be striving to do. I think I can speak for the department heads. Like, we don't always agree on exactly how this should work, but we all agree we can be better at this, and we should always be striving to improve how we serve. Your time's important, our time's important, and I think we agree we can do better. When we took kind of a vote at the table, which was, does anyone disagree with changing committee structures? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Nobody spoke. And so that was us saying we encourage, at a minimum, a hard look at this, and we think it's worthwhile. And I think we're appreciative of the council's discussion on this because it impacts you, it impacts us, and most importantly, it impacts the business for the city and the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Burns. Are there any other department heads who would like to address the council this evening?
Madam Chair, could I call a point of order?
What is your,
I guess my point of order is you know, why don't we have our department heads and stuff put stuff down in writing so we can see it in front of us, so we can make an educated decision on this in the future, perhaps by putting it in a packet, you know, for an upcoming meeting. And I would also like to table this and refer this to the, make a motion to table this and refer this to the Rules Committee.
I don't believe the point of order is well taken. Is it?
Madam Chair, then I would
Mr.
rather,
Larson, the point of order is not well taken.
well, then I'll make the objection to consideration of the question.
Calling the question.
No, I'm objection to the consideration of the question. I got it directly from the mayor's office, from the lawyer attorney's office.
I think I need more clarification. What do you feel is inappropriate, Alder Larson?
Well, I believe we can beat this up all night long, and and that's why I'm calling the objection to the consideration of the question. No second is needed. I've asked this from the city attorney's office, and I would like to make a motion to table this and refer it to the Rules Committee for when we have proper data and stuff in front of us to examine.
I'd like Attorney Bonino to speak on this, please.
So, objection to consideration is when essentially, I guess one of you think that the topic is irrelevant or inappropriate and is meant to end the discussion on the, or sort of end the conversation on the topic. I guess just what, I guess just identifying what conversation you want to essentially end.
Well, then let me just take all that back, and I'll just make a motion to table and refer the rules to the committee. Table and refer it to the Rules Committee.
People are going to speak here.
There is already a motion on the floor, Alder Larson. It was the motion, I believe, that Alder Denny made. Who? He said there was a motion on the floor already.
Point of order, if I'm remembering correctly, the motion currently on the floor was made by Alder Tierney, and that was seconded by myself. I believe that's still what is being
Would you
discussed.
define that motion again, please?
The motion that I have is actually made by you, Alder Henneke, and seconded by Alder Tierney, just to approve the ordinance as it sits on the table. And then I guess I would ask Alder Larson, is that a motion to table this or a motion to or a motion to refer this ordinance to the Rules Review Committee?
It's a motion to refer this to the Rules Review Committee.
Excuse me, does that mean that the people who are speaking have no right to speak anymore?
Hasn't been a second yet.
All right, there is. All right, Alder Henneke, your point is well taken. There is a motion on the floor. I believe that Alder Larson has the ability to amend that motion.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Then I would like to amend the motion to refer this to the Rules Committee.
After everybody's spoken, come on.
Is there a second to that motion? Alder Watson? All right, any discussion?
I was on the floor, and I had asked that we entertain discussion from any of the directors that were willing to talk. Are we not going to finish that, or am my time on the floor is cut?
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Yes, Alder. Yes, Mayor.
So the motion from Larson was a continuation of his original point of order, and he morphed that into a motion to table. He was not recognized for that motion to table. So Alder Tierney was still had the floor, and that's not an interruptible motion. You can't move to table something when somebody else has the floor.
You can make that motion. When they allow you to speak, when they call on you to speak, then you can make that motion.
Yeah.
For the main motion to the,
Yeah.
because you have to say that. You have to refer the main motion to the name.
Yeah, I mean, this is,
Well, that's what you wanted to do, right?
yeah, we're just beating this up, and we're not going to be able to vote on anything anyway, so.
Well,
And, yeah.
we gave citizens the right to
Okay, I think we have this straight, and I apologize for all the confusion, but I'm learning, and this has become quite complex. Mayor Denny's point of order is well taken. Alder Tierney has the floor, and we will go back to asking if any other directors would like to speak. And again, I apologize.
I do as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Agree with Chief Barnes on that, and I agree there's always room for efficiencies when we're working through things. There's a number of great things that were brought up. I did want to bring up one thing in terms of efficiency, in terms of process, and that was something I brought to Mayor Denny. It's included in the proposed ordinance in Rule 6, Item B, filing, in regards to the so-called 7-day rule. So to provide an example, when we're running our ED meetings, those are held on the first Monday of each month. At 4 o'clock on that day, I'm expected to have my resolutions in for whatever that meeting is going to produce for the council on the second Tuesday. That meeting takes place at 5:30. So we're trying to predict as best we can what the outcome from the committee is going to be so that we can efficiently move that business of the city forward to the following week. My request and what's in the ordinance is moving that to 6 days. Now, the public and council receives the agenda on the Wednesday as well, so this would be consistent with that, and that the resolution agenda would be provided 6 days before your council meeting, and just provides better efficiency so we don't have to go back, do administrative work to correct anything that happens at that meeting. So, thank you.
Thank you, and I'll have Cody address this.
Yes. So in this amendment, I would, or what's presented, as it currently stands, it is not workable because that would require items to be due to the clerk's office at the exact same time I am required to put the packet out. So in effect, what would happen would be at 4:30 at the end of close, I would get all those resolutions, and then at 4:30 at the end of close, I would also have to get all the resolutions, put it into the packet, and then send it out. I think a more appropriate thing would be to still have it at the 6 days, because I understand that that's an issue, and have it at 10 a.m. if that works. So then how that would work is the deadline would be 10 a.m. on Wednesday, and then I would have till the end of the day to get that packet distributed out, if that would work.
10 a.m. on the 6th day.
Correct.
Right.
Are there any other directors that wish to speak?
Yeah, I did.
Director Lindman.
Hi, good evening. I think a lot of what Matt had talked about, I concur with. We're always looking for different ways to make improvements, whether we are doing joint meetings, bringing everybody together. I do think that there are some considerations where the committee of the whole should be considered more often. You know, when we talk about going from one committee to another to a third committee, a lot of those committees, the same people are on them, right? So we're not touching all of the council members. And so in our mind, that isn't inefficient. We're talking to the same people. So if we're doing 3 committees in the council, we're talking to those same people 4 times. I am in agreement with reducing the number of standing committees. I support it from my perspective within the department. So I'm happy to talk with any one of you, talk through that, answer any questions that you have, but I appreciate the opportunity. So, thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to talk, and I appreciate the gravity that's given to human resources. That's much appreciated. For me, I do also appreciate the elders who did reach out to me to gather some information. And from my perspective, the heavy lifting for me is done before the HR committee meeting. So I have an entire city of employees that I am doing just as you have done with me, where I'm having meetings and I'm building relationships and I'm gathering data and information that I need to bring to my committee and then therefore bring to everybody as a whole. So for me, I love the idea that Alder Watson had brought up, where maybe it is quarterly, maybe we look at it differently, the lens difference from the work that I do and the work that Director Pfifferk might be doing. So I'm not married either way to a change or to keep it the same. It matters not to me. So whatever you decide is totally fine with me. Thank you.
All right, if there are no other directors, or Randy, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to the clerk's comment about time of day and everything, and I think that's great for standard operating procedures. But I don't think that we typically include times in our ordinance in terms of when we would be publishing something. I think most of everything we have is tied to the number of days. Obviously, we want to have things done, and having standard operating procedures in there in terms of when things are due from a staff perspective is great. It allows everybody's life a lot easier. Nobody wants to be here past 4:30, especially as we're trying to get everything out in a timely manner. But I don't think it's necessary to have that time commitment in there, creating that deadline in place when we don't do that. That I'm aware of for anything else. I don't know if Vinny, if you have any other examples where we're tying something to a specific time of day. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Go ahead, Vinny.
I mean, not that I'm aware of, but I'll just add that, I mean, these are just the standing rules, so you can sort of format them however you want.
Cody, did you wish to address any of that? Did you have any comments? All right, thank you. Anyone else? Going. Okay. Next to speak, we have Alder Watson.
Thank you. So I guess I want to call the question. But I know that everybody in the queue is going to be able to speak per our rules, right? So, and I don't know if I can talk before I call the question. Backing up. So I want to talk just a second. If like calling the question, going through, so this is just one potential amendment. Afterwards, can I then also go into amendments? Or is that something we would like review at a rules review? Because I have about, I don't know, a half dozen. Yeah, why not? It's fun. So can I make those after? Can I make the other amendments that I want to make with all these other changes after we vote on it? Do I make them after then? Or do I make it within the amendment? Like, should I nestle a whole bunch of amendments in this?
No, call the question as a separate motion.
I could. So if I call the question here, this will get voted on, and then I can amend or add amendments later?
So you want to make amendments to the standing rules?
Yeah.
So then you'd just move to amend the motion to add whatever.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So I would move to amend. Let's start. Okay. So I would move to amend Rule 1 of A, regular meetings number 1. I'd like to remove the second and fourth Tuesday of every month as standard meeting days. I think we should be able to create new standard meeting days. Second amendment, I would like on Rule 6, I don't know, personally I sort of think it would be nice to add a time frame along the lines of what the clerk was saying. Rule 6, I think it should be noon on the 6th day.
This is going to be complicated.
It is going to be nice. I like it.
She has to make her motion.
I'm finishing making my amendment. Oh, about the noon thing? Mhm.
Once it's second, then it's open for discussion.
I mean, we want to talk about the rules. Rule 7A.
Are you finished with your amendment?
No,
Sarah? You
actually,
wish
I
to-
would like to also add to Rule 8 for Council President a C, discussing scheduling of a retreat, requirement for a retreat.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Rule 8, add C, that the Council President schedules a retreat within the first month. Okay. And then I would also like to add on Rule 1E that talks about holding a cow twice a year. So that's another special meeting. It's E-A.
Vinny and I are both keeping track. Can you repeat that 1E?
1E would be require a cow scheduled twice a year with the agenda.
Is that under Rule 1?
Yeah, so add an E. So it would be cow required twice a year with agenda items sent from alders and citizens to fill the agenda. The agenda would be created by council president and clerk to be set to take place for about to set the agenda so that it fits into the meeting time.
Okay, have you concluded, Alder Watson?
Oh, yes. Rule 1B, can you, when it's a special meeting, number 1, the mayor calls a special meeting, I personally would like to strike or left at their usual abode. I don't know, it just sounds really creepy. So if we could just put it in as telephone, voicemail, and email to their address. It's important. I think that's a good thing. During business hours. And I guess, I do want to do an amendment, but maybe you guys can think about it, to, piggyback on Alder Tierney. She always, we do suspend the rules every freaking meeting. So is there a way, these are our rules. So why do we suspend the rules for our rules that we make? So one of the ideas I sort of had about Rule 20 and 21 was to require explanation of why the rules are suspended. So is it because, the mayor would have to say. So maybe add in Rule 20, expressing why the rule is to be suspended. Because maybe then we can start collecting information on why we're suspending them all the time and change the rules. So that's my final one.
Alder Watson, would you like to make these amendments subject to attorney review so that he can?
I would absolutely love to do that.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, would we address, if someone seconded the proposed amendments, would they be taken as a package and voted all at once?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, thank you. I'll second.
Okay. Cody will state the motion to amend.
To very briefly clarify, I have amend ordinance 020432 as stated by Alder Watson. I know that's not exactly very helpful, but I think between Vinny and I, we've jotted down those. And I think that would be the best way to, instead of putting that all down on here.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it going backwards? What the heck?
Does anyone wish to speak on the massive amendment? Alder Tierney.
Just one comment. Can you amend an amendment? Oh my God, I can't talk.
Stuck on.
Benny, you may speak to that if you'd like.
Oh, now we're on consent. Okay.
You can make one amendment to a motion to amend.
Okay, I'd like to do that, please.
I must tell you that jumping into this meeting has been a real challenge. Okay, I've not ever encountered so many issues, but we'll work through them.
My amendment to the amendment would be to keep standard meeting days. I don't feel that fluctuation of meeting days is a good organizational situation, at least not for me. Thank you. Yeah, that would be Rule 1A that Alder Watson proposed. I would like to basically keep it as is.
What's that?
That's a discussion.
Is there a second on the amendment?
I second that.
Alder Hennick, a second by Alder Hennecke. Any more discussion? Does Alder Larson?
Yes, Madam Chair. I really think that this is too much to devour with just being out in the sky here, and that's why I'm not going to support any of this until I see it in front of me and perhaps gone to the Rules Committee and examined. So we're not doing anything hastily here. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Alder Lukens?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also, it's a lot for one night. I would like the opportunity to discuss this with residents before we vote on all of this tonight. I would really appreciate us reconvening for a committee of the whole. I'm not ready to vote to approve this tonight because I really, really do want to discuss it with residents. So I don't know what that means because I know there are people in the queue. So if I call the question, then that cuts them out, and I really don't want to do that. But if I call the question, that doesn't postpone it either. Right? If I call the question, we'd have to vote on this, right? If I call the question, we have to vote on what's before us, and I don't want to do that.
I believe the people who are in the queue have the opportunity to speak even when you call the question.
Okay.
And
And I know it's not my turn to speak yet, so I don't know if
And to be clear, the motion right now is on the floor is the amendment to the amendment. So a call the question right now would be calling the question on that. Yeah.
Mayor Denny.
Just speak briefly on the amendment to keep the standard days. And again, this is why it's important that it's subject to Assistant City Attorney review. That there is specific state statute 62.11 language on when meetings should meet. They are required to be at least once per month, and they designate a certain Tuesday of the month unless the council changes it. So that's going to need review before we monkey with that part of it. Thank you.
All right. Is there any further discussion? If not, Cody will read the amendment to the amendment that we will be voting on.
So yeah, just to reiterate and make sure everyone knows what we're right now. What's on the floor is Tierney's amendment to an amendment to Alder Watson's amendment, which keeps the second and fourth Tuesday of every month at 6:30 PM, correct? Yep. So a vote in favor would keep that in, a vote against would accept it as it originally was proposed by Alder Watson to remove it.
All right, you may vote.
All right, you may vote. Oh, you have to vote. Then you would vote yes. All right, that motion passes 10-1 to remove that item. And now what's before the body is the amendment as presented by Alder Watson without the change to Rule 1A1.
And Cody, just for clarification, that is with attorney review, correct?
Correct. So the motion that is now on the floor, let me just get back to it, and I can pop that up on the screen, is to amend the ordinance as stated by Alder Watson. I'll add with attorney review. Review? Does that sound?
Point of question. I swear I listened, Alder Watson, and I took the notes. So I know what Alder Watson wants to amend it to be, but for clarity, would a yes vote also incorporate the proposed changes to decreasing the standing committees from 6 to 4?
I believe that there needs to be clarification for everyone. So could the full amendment that Alder Watson made be repeated? Because it was quite extensive. Go ahead, Vinny.
So from my understanding, the initial motion proposed was the, to amend the rules as provided in the packet. So Alder Watson's amendment would be amending the rules with those additional changes to the standing committees.
Is that clear for everyone? Alder Neal?
So in effect, we would also be voting on the proposal to reduce to 4 committees,
Just the amendment.
correct?
Just the, yes.
So although I might support Alder Watson's amendments, if I voted in favor of them, I'd also be voting in favor of the reduction of committees.
I can, if you may.
Because that's presented to us in our packet, in the
So
proposal.
right now, it's a motion to amend. There would be a second vote on the whole, on everything, depending on what happens with this motion to amend. So there's 2 more votes yet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there any further discussion on Alder Watson's amendment? All right. Alder Drew?
Yep. So just a clarification on one point. You said to introduce a time frame on 6B. I think, should we state the time frame, like no later than, as Cody said, 10:30 on the 6th day before the meeting? Is that,
I think I had initially proposed noon, if that's okay.
or noon?
Yeah, is that?
Just as long as it's stated a time? Is that correct? We should state a time, shouldn't we, if we're going to
I
say?
believe so. Right, Cody? Doesn't that?
And I guess for the clarification, noon would be 12 p.m. That would be the subject to the attorney review. As you said noon, the attorney would probably turn that into 12 p.m.
Any further discussion?
So as I read number 6, even if they don't get it done on time, those requirements can be waived. So if they don't get it done on time, what's the result? They just go to the chair, they go to the presiding officer and get it waived, and we do.
Yeah, so that's a
Suspension
very
rules
good
anyway.
question. So what the standard right now is that if an item is late, a good example is on tonight's agenda, prior to the mayor removing that one appointment, the appointment resolution was before the council under suspension of the rules, 6B filing. So if a resolution, ordinance, or any other communication gets to the clerk's office after the date, it then automatically goes on suspension of the rules because the council has to decide to suspend the rules to take that item up. And then how that also works is you have that will happen on anything that's handed in after Tuesday as the current rules stand. And then in theory, anyone could add items to the packet and to the agenda up until the Friday. And then there's a rule that says after that Friday, nothing can be added to the packet, and that would include the agenda as well. So nothing can be added to the agenda or packet after the close of the week.
Could I have a follow-up? Quick follow-up question. Am I able to request a friendly amendment to the motion? Would that be allowed? Request a friendly amendment. If the motioner and the second agree.
Yeah.
Okay, so since we're already changing Rule 6, so if it is not submitted by the time, could it then be postponed to the subsequent meeting? Rather than continually changing the rule or suspending the rules, could an item not be submitted? If an item is not submitted by the deadline, could it be suspended until the next meeting? Because we do meet every 2 weeks anyway. So that would be a change to the rules.
Except for in the summer, we don't meet.
So I would request that as a friendly amendment, and that would be to Rule 6B.
Alder Tierney.
Thank you. I was on the Rules Committee last year, and that was precisely what we had said and what the council had agreed to, is that an item that was not time emergent would go to the next council meeting. However, if something we needed, if we would miss out if it wasn't under suspension of the rules, such as a grant needed, we need an answer now, or a purchase where we have a contractor coming to us and saying, I will give you this rate, but you have to sign by such and such a date. Those to me are what a suspension of the rule was meant for. If it wasn't meeting those requirements in the council rules, we had stated that it would wait. And unfortunately, that's not the way it has gone. And that's what our Rules Committee had. That is actually what is in our council rules. Thank you.
Is there any additional discussion?
Point of order. The motioner and the seconder have to accept the friendly amendment before we can continue.
Do you accept or not accept the friendly amendment? Do Do Alder Watson and Alder Tierney accept the friendly amendment? Alder Watson?
I don't know. So it would be for removing that last sentence of B, I'm guessing. If for good cause this pre-filing is impossible or practical, the council or chairperson of the committee may waive this requirement. You're wanting to remove that?
I would have to say no, because then if it is an emergency, they would not be able to waive. So I agree with what Alder Tierney said. Thank you. The Alder from the 9th said, in that if it was already in the standing rules, I don't see it, but it would be great if somebody could point that out, because as was stated, it seems like this was already discussed and voted on. So I will withdraw at this time the friendly amendment and bring it up when we have more information.
All right, the friendly amendment has been withdrawn. Is there any more discussion at all on the amendment of Alder Watson? And if there isn't, I would like Vinnie to summarize that amendment so we can vote on it.
So, again, this is a motion to amend the original motion to change, or to add 1E, which will essentially state that a committee of the whole will be held twice a year with the agenda set by council members and citizens. And Rule 1B to strike usual abode. Rule 6, B to set it at noon on the 6th day. And then Rule 8 to add C for the council president to schedule a retreat. And then Rule 20 requiring the explanation for why we are suspending the rules.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, I believe we're ready to vote on the amendment.
You may vote. That motion passes 9-2.
Now we will be looking back to the ordinance, the original ordinance as amended, and I will have Cody read that.
Q.
All right, we will now allow the people in the queue to speak. Alder Lukens, did you wish to speak again?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And I can make it quick. I just, if we're voting on this motion tonight, I will be voting no, only because I would like more time. Again, I would like time to discuss this with residents. I would really appreciate us putting this on hold for now, giving us some time to think about this, talk with residents, and then maybe come back together in a committee of the whole so that we can really weigh the pros and cons. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Lukens. Mayor Denny, did you wish to speak again?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sure, and I apologize. I expected this to be fairly straightforward. And it's ironic that,
Mayor Denny, I
yes.
hope your apology is to me.
indeed, I owe you one, a drink maybe. So it is a little ironic that, this meeting on efficiency has turned into the longest so far for the term, and we're going on 9 o'clock. So let me see if I can be quick here as well. The notion that there was an ambush, I think that's disingenuous. But what was presented by me, was in the packet, and what was presented publicly was far more than any amendment in the past has ever been. Most of, as Alder Watson just demonstrated, we had a motion to amend from the floor. We've had, Alder Watson and I had a motion to amend from the floor on a previous council meeting. So those happen. And as to the delays, I really think, we should defer. And I respect new and old alders, and I think everyone who is duly elected is able to make decisions on these. We all did when we were first put in on council. So I think we should respect them. We should respect their opinion, new or old. I think their opinions matter the same. As to the why we suspend the rules, we did with the advice of the assistant city attorney, we listed specifically which rules we were suspending. I think I indicated why, but we did list them, and in the past we didn't list them. They were just listed as suspension of the rules on the previous org meetings. As to Alder Watson and Henneke's points, this is a practical spot to be discussing the org, because we are at the organizational meeting. This is where we moving forward for the term. So let's set that tone and let's set that now. As to combining the committees, the way the structure of the agendas would be, we have the new Civic Plus software. Each director, each staff member who has input into that agenda will put that in independent of each other. And then the clerk or the chair can sort that in a way that makes sense to deliver it to the meeting. So whether it's, we have one item on HR for the joint meeting, or for that HR Human Resources meeting, they could schedule that so that it could be done. HR currently meets once a month and frequently doesn't meet. Finance meets every 2 weeks. HR has a lot more flexibility of when they put things on the agenda packet or into the agenda packet, which, by the way, so that would be a meeting of 5 alders. You would have the Director of Finance, Marianne Grote, and Director of HR, Nowak, there. And they would be the ones championing the items. So there wouldn't be this, I forgot what the term was used, that we would be diluted, or you would be concentrated on one item. It'd be their job to make sure that it was front and center for you. Marianne Grote, by the way, I did talk to her tonight. For everyone who doesn't know, is probably watching from the hospital, and I hope she's enjoying this. But she told me that once a long time ago, when she was first worked here, or I don't know the exact time frame, but HR and finance did meet together. There was a time when finance and ED met together. So this isn't unusual. And again, the full council always has the final say. As to the department heads, there's a lot been said about who supports, and I think I even in my press release, I think I indicated it had overwhelming support, and I may have misworded that a little bit. As Chief Barnes mentioned, it wasn't. They're here to support the council. They're here to support the mayor. They're here to support the residents. So if we tell them it's 6 or 7 or 4 or 3, that's what they're going to adjust to, and they're professionals and they will do that. So first and foremost, they support the system and the council. And we heard some mixed, some are all in, some are not. But they will do what you ask them to do. We talked about the executive committee. We forgot to mention that. That's in there we're striking the executive committee. It was put in, I think it was in 22, and it met 2 times in that term, and it didn't meet at all last term. It's ineffective. And to Alder Henneke's point on expanding committees. One of the issues you run into is the quorum. So that executive committee had just that issue, is that it would meet with 6 standing committee chairs and the council president. So you now have 7 of the 11 members there. You're excluding 4. So that is problematic, and I think that's part of the reason why it was opposed when it was there were 3 votes against it. I think it was Alder Killian, it was Alder Dinny, and it was Alder Larson, if I recall, who voted against that. But it passed 7-3, simple majority, and we've had it. Now it doesn't work, let's get rid of it. So we can do the same here. It's pretty easy to reverse this. So I'm going to end this with, I think we will suspend the rules less, and we'll have more opportunity for committees of the whole. And I think anything that doesn't fit neatly into one committee and it requires multiple committees, rather than a joint meeting, we should have that. Because a joint meeting could have overlap of 1, you'd have 6 people there. You could have 10 members if you had 2 completely different committees that didn't have overlap. Now you would have a joint meeting of 10. You're excluding 1 member. Doesn't make sense. So why not have the committee of the whole in that case? And the logic, Green Bay uses finance and HR. The logic between parks and infrastructure really was looking at all the special events coming up and the coordination that they have to do. Now, it isn't routine throughout the year, but coming into the summer months, we have a potential for 5,000 persons showing up at a concert. We've got to secure the streets. There's special event requests come through parks. Some others come to secure the 400 block, and then Cody handles the special event for all the other coordinating on streets, licensing, police, fire, the whole 9 yards. So they do coordinate a lot, and that was the impetus of that thought. So I'm going to leave it with one final thought. There's a quote from G.K. Chesterton. I've searched all the parks in all the cities and found no statues of committees. So I guess what he's saying there is committees are tools, not ends in of themselves. They should serve the public, not consume time and energy. Thank you.
We still have a couple people in the queue. Mr. Alder Larson, did you wish to speak again?
Yes, I do, Madam Chair. I would like to make a motion to refer this back to the Rules Committee. I feel that there's not enough data been produced. I don't think there's been anything in the packet. I believe for something this important in our governance, I believe it needs to be examined thoroughly, and therefore I would like to make the motion to refer this to the Rules Committee and go through the proper process. Thank you.
A motion has been made to refer this back to the Rules Committee. Is there a second? Alder Neal has seconded it. Is there any discussion?
Just to clarify, so we had the votes on the amendments to the amendments for the amendments. And now we are going to the current item. Are we able to make a motion when this is on the floor?
Yes, I believe he can. Is there any discussion? Alder Martins.
Yeah. I think we've done a very good job this evening hashing out this issue, and I don't know if more time with the Rules Committee and with another Committee of the Whole, potentially Committee of the Whole and back to Council again, if that's going to change anybody's hearts and minds in the long run. And I think, I got a feeling we may have a pretty good handle on this one way or the other, and I would not be supporting that, the referral.
Is there any other discussion? Alder Drew.
Yeah, I just want to say, I knew this was on the agenda for tonight because we dealt with it last week, and I took the week to talk to people and to gather evidence and information. So I feel prepared to move on this now.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, a motion was made and seconded to refer this back to the Rules Committee. You may vote.
Motion fails 2-9.
Now we will take a look at the original motion as amended. And Cody, would you read that for clarification, please? Oh, wait, sorry. Alder Martins is still in the queue.
I'm still in the queue. I wanted to speak one more time to the main motion, so thank you. This is getting to be a long night. And my concerns with this, with the consolidation of committees is that are we trading efficiency for transparency? I know something that we have worked really hard, at least the last 5 years, is how do we increase transparency? What do we need to do to make our process transparent so that just the average citizen understands the process and why we're doing the things we're doing. We've made great gains in the last years by limiting the amount of closed sessions we've done, and that's been great. And I don't want to see, and we've increased the numbers of meetings, that we air online and we stream. And, that also is great. And I don't want to see us, make this trade-off of, because we feel like, we're being redundant, we're being inefficient. Let's streamline the process so we can move through on things. I don't want to see that hinder, the openness that we're striving for as elected officials. There's a big difference between, how business operates and how government operates, and you've got to take that mindset, that governance mindset, and in that, what's good for business, like the lack of silos and open communication between organizational structures, and what is good for governance. Openness, open in how we make our decisions, open in how we go forth in things. So, it feels like the process has slowed down, and a lot of times that's a good thing. I think we've made, as a committee, as a body, we make our best decisions when we do take our time and we deliberate, and we're transparent and we're open and provide the best possible decisions that we can. So, I like that we've added more committees of the whole, and I like that, that we're thinking about, that for, versus joint meetings. Joint meetings, are a good tool, especially on the finance side of things. When we need to move through a finance item and it requires the approval of a second committee. But when you start pulling in with these bigger topics, then the committee of the whole really, really works well, and it does a tremendous job of delivering information in a open and transparent manner. I still like the committee structure that we have. The committee structure we have works, it's transparent. It gives people the opportunity to do the work, and if there's not an agenda item, we don't have to necessarily hold a meeting. And so I think just caution everybody to think about how we can stay as open and transparent as we are, especially with our goals of increasing efficiency, and also be cognizant that the two may not mesh completely. So if there's a choice between efficiency or transparency, I think I'm going to be taking transparency.
Thank you, Alder Martins. Alder Neal, are you still in the queue?
Yeah, I'm not giving up yet. Well, I'm on record from about 2 hours ago or so, and I stand by the comments I made at that time. I would make a motion right now to amend what's before us to strike the proposal to go to 4 committees. I am okay with striking out the executive committee and ending up with 6 standing committees, knowing full well that going forward, it could be that we look at our committee structure and decide that we need 5 or we need 4 maybe, or whatever, or we change the way we do things. But right now, tonight, again, without any urgency that I've heard tonight that says we have to right now go to 4 committees, I would make a motion to strike that proposal and stay with the 6 standing committees, and we'll see what happens, in the months coming ahead.
A motion has been made by Alder Neal and seconded by Alder Larson. Would you read the motion, Cody, so that we know exactly what we're voting on?
Yeah, so I'm going to have this up on the screen, just kind of like we had with Alder Watson's ordinance, amend ordinance 020432 as stated by Alder Neal, subject to attorney review if that works. And then I believe it would strike out the proposed amendments in Rule 13 committees to leave as is, except for removing the executive committee. So the executive committee would still be removed from the rules.
That's correct.
Is there any discussion? You may vote.
Motion fails 5-6.
Point of question, Madam Chair. Do we have a limitation on how many times people can add themselves to the queue? Only just so we don't get to the point where we just continue to throw our names in the queue?
I believe we have a limit of 2, and we are done with the queue. Probably I was too liberal.
Madam Chair, point of order. Thank you very much for your gracious handling of tonight's ordeal.
Thank you. All right, now we will take a look at the original ordinance as amended. You may, I believe, Cody, do you want to read it? Or, okay, Vinny's going to read it. Yeah, it's quite elaborate. So with the amendments, we need to.
So, okay, so yeah, what you're voting on is amendment to, amendment to, sorry, I wrote it down somewhere. An ordinance amending chapter 216 as follows. So the addition of 1E, requiring a semi-annual committee of the whole where council members and citizens may submit agenda items. Rule 6B is amended to change that matters submitted to the clerk's office by 12 p.m. on the 6th day prior to the scheduled council meeting. Rule 8C is added to have the council president schedule and organize a council retreat. Rule 13 is amended to combine the infrastructure, facilities, and parks committees, to combine finance and human resource committee, and to eliminate the executive committee. And Rule 20 is amended to require a statement providing the reasoning as to why the rules will be suspended for a specific agenda item.
Everybody got that? Okay. I haven't said anything at all because I'm supposed to be an impartial person sitting up here, but I do want to make a comment before we vote on this. I have never in the 2 years that I've been on council seen as much input from our council and as much concern and such strong opinions about which way they wanted to go. So I recognize what an important ordinance that we are voting on. And I want to thank all of you for giving this so much thought. And it's an important consideration. So thank you, everyone. All right, now that we know the original ordinance and as amended, you may vote.
That motion fails to get the 2/3 majority required.
We're done. Thank you, everyone, for your patience with me. It's been quite an evening.
It's 2/3.
Oh, okay.
All right, so that was a 6-5 in favor, but failed to meet the 2/3 required. Under Rule 20, which we chose not to suspend. So there's a lot of lessons learned out here tonight on rules. I'm glad we stumbled through them. So as a point then, as you move forward, I'd encourage you to read and learn the rules so that when we do discuss these, that we're sharper and faster on the draw. It's not always easy. So when you call a point of order, you know which rule you want to refer to, and then it makes it so much easier on the chair to conduct the meetings. So we're at the announcement from the mayor and alderpersons. Now, I had something, I don't remember it. So I'm going to turn it to alders. Anyone? Alder Larson.
The Thomas Street, West Thomas Street neighborhood meeting was canceled last Monday because the school wasn't open where we meet. So we will be meeting this Monday at G.D. Jones School at 5:30 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Trubutt.
As it's wrapping up, I would like to recognize again Hmong Heritage Month. This is the Hmong's 50th year in Wausau. And in celebration of that, on Friday at the Horace Mann Middle School, there's an open to the public celebration by the middle school Hmong community from John Muir and Horace Mann. It starts at 4:30 in the cafetorium, whatever we're calling it today. So that is at 4:30 on Friday. It is a great event. I would encourage everyone to celebrate Hmong Heritage Month. Thank you.
Alder Watson? Oh, Anyone, beside announcements, anyone from the public wishing to speak? We would take comments and suggestions from citizens. Oh, state your name.
Good evening, Tom Killian, 133 East Thomas Street. I did want to mention, because it's come up now, I think, a couple times in public, and I'm sure it was done with good intentions, but 1300 Cleveland Avenue, the public participation plan has been brought up in public, and compared to other more conventional proceedings, I do want to mention that that's not really comparing apples to oranges. It's probably comparing apples to ribeye steaks. And the issue with that, and whether you're a current alder or one of the new ones, let's start with some reality. So 1 or 2 floors above us in one of the department rooms, you will find an envelope labeled confidential from the 1980s. It's actually not enforceably legally confidential, but it is about Cleveland Avenue. And I would encourage everyone on this body to request it and to read it. And I would also encourage everyone at home to make the requests of the city and read it, because what you will find is some very unfortunate, rather disgusting content in that envelope about the former property, Connor property, that through acts of omission or commission was hidden from our public. And over the years, it was a sequence of events like that. And we saw the same thing with Crestline, S&E, Waleco, whatever they'd like to call themselves at any given time. Well, it probably wasn't published in the Daily Herald when they were doing their political negotiation with the DNR to not get super funded. One of their concerns, in addition to the costs it would take to actually do it right under EPA requirements, is that most of the work to date had not met valid federal public participation and notice standards. So this is not particular to my neighborhood. When you look at Wausau's history, which has been anything but open and transparent, which you will see in that envelope upstairs labeled confidential, you will see, and much like the good people at the DNR, the hacks before them in that department were much like the hacks that preceded this body at times over the years. We are talking about policymakers that did not put their people above politics. They did not put their people above big money, and these were Democrats, Republicans, and everybody in between. So this is not a party thing. Right now you have some issues on the east side of the river with the Superfund site, of which the city is a responsible party. How are the talks on public participation from the city going there? You have significant vapor intrusion issues. If my recollection serves me, they will be entering private citizens' properties to conduct vapor assessments. Yes, the feds and the DNR have oversight. How are those public participation talks going for the city? As long as we're talking about municipal code and rules, under municipal code, the sustainability or environmental committee is charged as the primary advisory body for all things existing between the relationship between the environment and the city. How's that coming? In terms of my neighborhood, the Superfund site, or any legitimate pressing environmental contamination issue, they have done precisely nothing. And this has come up for 6 years. When I was on it, I wasn't the only one who felt that sentiment. And it's not because there aren't good and caring people. It's because city government to date has not done its job. And I'm sure the alders who made the comparison with 1300 Cleveland Avenue was meant to be positive and in good faith, but it is misguided, and it diminishes the great injustice and the corrupted processes which fueled this city for decades. So citizens should not have to spoon feed their government relevant critical data about the environment and their people. Instead of making unfounded comparisons, It's time to say, why did that happen on Cleveland Avenue? Why did that happen with Crestline? How is this happening with the Superfund site? And the council and that environmental committee needs to start spending some time doing its jobs, not apparently making comparisons to things of which the requisite knowledge does not exist. So in conclusion, I'll just say there's a lot of things in life that I know very little about. This bucket is not one of them, and I worked extensively not only as a citizen and policymaker to guide public participation guidelines here, but our neighborhood worked with the DNR in a pilot program because that is an exception. It's an exception we've seen, unfortunately, in other areas of the city where people have been treated like shit because government will work with polluters and profiteers before their own people. So I would just respectfully request that that cease and the time and energy is spent on finally doing this government's job. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hey, folks. So just as a sitting member of two of the committees for the City of Wausau on the Environmental Sustainability Committee and on the Ethics Board, I wanted to say I really appreciate and genuinely understand that this is something that I think gives each of us as a citizen member an opportunity to communicate with the council and to communicate with various committees. And I appreciate the fact that you are taking seriously the thought that having a number of those committees, while may be inefficient at times, I think offers the citizens a great opportunity to communicate with the council and to advise that council. And as an advisory committee that speaks directly to the council, I think that the Environmental Sustainability Committee is one that, in my heart of hearts, I've been on that committee for, this would be my third and final allotment. And it's really an opportunity for us to work with you and for you as a committee. So if there's any opportunity for us to help you understand things in reference to some of the things that Tom has brought up, I'm happy to be the person that speaks to the committee on those things. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. From Killian of Mention That. Second by Slonsky. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Meeting's adjourned. Good night.